Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to jump right in. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the market is crashing. Existing home sales have plummeted from highs over the past 10 years. Since the commission lawsuits, the average buyer agent commission has dropped materially. Oh man, that's kind of depressing, isn't it? Let me try this again. The market is stable. Everything's fine, and in fact, there's really interesting opportunities out there. Since the NAR commission lawsuits, the average buyer agent commission hasn't changed at all. It's totally flat. Existing home sales, they're down a bit, but it's not catastrophic. And actually, when you think about home price appreciation over the past 5 years, the commission pool is bigger than it was in 2019, $13 billion higher. Interesting, right? So those two openings, the data was exactly the same. And that's what I want to talk about today, this idea of propaganda, this idea of manipulating data and words very subtly to tell whatever story you want. So the first kind of theme through this is how to mislead with statistics. So let me go back to the graphs I started with. You saw this one. It's the y-axis, right? This is like standard propaganda 101. You can adjust the y-axis to make the graph look however you want it to be. The first graph I showed you started at 3 million. The next one starts at 0. Same with buyer agent commissions. Anybody notice that? This one starts at 254. Looks pretty bad. I've seen this graph. I've seen the equivalent of this graph in the media when talking about buyer agent commissions. But if you benchmark it at 0, that's what you get. It's different, right? This is one of my favorite quotes. In God we trust, all others bring data. I did not say that, but it's great. The problem is, the tricky thing is, data is not enough. You need multiple data points. The data can be subtly manipulated, again, to tell whatever story you want. Let me give you another example. So this is a Homes.com listing page. You might notice the impossibly high 4.1 million views on this listing. That's really big, right? If you dig into what that number is and what it means, if you look at the analytics for a different listing, you'll notice that 98% of that traffic is coming from the property search page. So that's a search results page, whereas the actual detailed listing, the profile, is only 0.2% of those listings. 2,800 views as opposed to 1.1 million. It's very, very different. Now, I want to be clear. Everything I've talked about so far, all of this data, it is 100% accurate. Nobody is lying. Nobody is making things up. Nobody's manufacturing data. It's all 100% accurate, but it's that next level. It's how that data is displayed. It's how you get to that number. And I think now more than ever, in the world we live in, not just in real estate, in everything, it's really important to get curious and dig deeper and not just stick with the headlines. Give you another example. Real estate tech company Picasso is raising money through a crowdfunding campaign. In their investor deck, this is the financials they showed up. Right? Looks good. If you're an investor, you want to see graphs that are going up and to the right. What's interesting about this data is these numbers are cumulative. Cumulative revenue, cumulative gross profit. That's a pretty non-standard way. No other company in this room or that you're here from reports revenue that way. I'll pull it out so you can see it, right? This is cumulative revenue on the left, and traditionally non-cumulative, like per year revenue on the right. Those are very different stories, aren't they? It's 100% accurate. The data is all the same. It's just how you display that. Now, to Picasso's credit, after I published this stuff a month or so ago, they changed. They changed the investor deck. They added cumulative all over the place. It wasn't there before. Now it is. So it's pretty good. It's still non-standard. Non-cumulative is the way that typically this information is reported. But to their credit, it's there. While we're on this slide, I'd like to point out this gross profit number, $100 million in adjusted gross profit. You could be excused for thinking that is profit, right? And that profit is increasing over time. But again, we can dig into that without boring you all to death with financials. Adjusted gross profit. In 2023, For Picasso, it was $12 million. Right? Sounds pretty good. Adjusted EBITDA was negative $27 million, and the net loss was negative $36 million. These are all wildly different, right? Again, you can subtly tell whatever story you want based on the data you choose and how you display it. But this brings us this great question, like what even is profitability anymore? Can you trust what you hear? Profit, non-profit, gross profit, net profit. This investment company, Lead Edge Capital, a couple of years ago, put together this great cheat sheet of how companies, kind of the laws of how companies talk about profitability. I'll run you through it. If companies have good cash profits, they talk about those. If they don't have good cash profits, they talk about adjusted profits, where you might hear EBITDA. If they don't have good EBITDA, they'll talk about gross profits. And if they don't have gross profits, they talk about revenue. And if they don't have good revenue, they talk about adjusted revenue indicators, things like cumulative revenue or gross merchandise value. iBuyers have done that when talking about the total value of the home and including that as part of their overall revenue. And if they don't have any of that, they talk about being voted the best place to work in a certain city. It's true. Notice this stuff. When you read a press release for a company releasing their financials, see what they talk about. So to get good cash profits, it's really hard to find that. But it is out there. There's no one universal metric. If you're a data nerd like me, you might pull up some of the SEC filings for a public company, and you'd look for this. This is net cash provided by operating activities. I love this metric because it's exactly what it says. It is net cash provided from operating activities. That is a company's core business. It excludes all the stuff below it, which is investing and financing activities. This excludes raising debt, buying back stock, issuing more stock, making acquisitions. You're looking at just the core business. And how much cash does it make? That makes sense to me. So if you plot that out over the first 9 months of 2024, this is what you get. Kind of unsurprisingly, Zillow, real estate portal, high margin business, making a lot of cash. A couple things I'd like to point out in this graph that are surprising to me. One is EXP. For all the crap they've taken over the years and people kind of snickering at the business model, it's worth noting EXP is generating exponentially more cash than any other brokerage in the industry. Also, somehow, Redfin has managed to lose more money than Opendoor. That was surprising. That was very surprising. And just to dig into that one a little bit more, Redfin has over $800 million in debt right now. They have $160 million in cash, and they're losing money. So I'm no expert, but that seems like a very tricky, difficult situation. Now, in a kind of adjacent thing, this presentation's a little spicy. I'm calling out some companies I've been thinking about, kind of looking at my own personal protection, maybe hiring a bodyguard or something like that. If you want to donate, just text Save Mike to this number or scan the QR code. Thank you. All right, the next theme I want to look at today is context, right? Getting clarity by adding context. I love context. I love the word context. I love it so much. My podcast is called Context. Anybody listen to my podcast? Yay! It's a lot of fun. If not, check it out. So let me give you an example. Here's, again, back to existing home sales. Here are the existing home sales in 2024 in the US. I don't know, what does that mean? Is that good? Is it bad? It looks just kind of like a line graph, right? Without context, it's meaningless. So let's add some context. Here's 12 years of history, what that looks like. Like you feel yourself getting smarter, right? You're like, oh, okay, it's low, it's not catastrophically low, and it's following these general seasonal patterns. I'd like you to note the latest data where it says we are here in November. This is how the media reported on that number. That is a surge. Home sales surged. Existing home sales have surged. These are from major media outlets, names that will remain nameless, but you would absolutely recognize. This is how the media reported on that. This is a surge. So let's add more context. Between 2019 and 2024, existing home sales dropped 1.3 million units. That's a lot. That's a big drop. But again, home price appreciation, the average home value went up significantly. So that commission pool actually increased by $13 billion. Commission pool is average commission times number of sales times average sale price. That's big. That is a big increase. The commission pool is the fuel that powers every company in this room, all of you, and every company you're going to hear from at Inman this week. Everybody's dipping in here. There is plenty of money in the system. In fact, there's more than there was 5 years ago. I find that fascinating. Another area where we could add more context is the portal wars. So looking at traffic, right? You see Homes.com, incredible increase in traffic over the past 18 months into the number 2 position. This is self-reported traffic, right? All these companies kind of have Google Analytics or they set up their own internal tracking. They track it over time and they report that data. That's important because you can compare self-reported traffic to independent third-party traffic. So there's independent services like ComScore, SimilarWeb, SEMrush that track this. Now, the difference between self-reported and independent third-party, it's always different. So as an example, you can look at Zillow, Realtor.com, and Redfin. Their self-reported numbers are on average about 1.6 times higher than what ComScore reports. That's okay. This is not an exact science. You know, think about tracking web versus mobile. Is it the same user, the same house? It's tricky, right? I don't really care what the absolute number is, but I care about the difference. And this graph is great because it shows that that's relatively steady and they're all about the same. If you throw Homes.com into the mix, you see a big outlier, right? It was in the same area in 2023, but in 2024 surged way, way, way up. And that's an actual good usage of the word surged. So now it's sitting at, 2.6 times. Its Homes' internal traffic numbers are 2.6 times higher than what independent third parties report. Which makes sense. This company is spending hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising, effectively buying traffic, and the ad spend correlates to traffic, which is how it works. This isn't rocket science, that's how it works. But at the end, it still comes down to product market fit, and that'll translate into number of customers and revenue. So number of customers at Homes.com is, again, surged at the beginning of the year, going from basically 0 to 8,000. But it's interesting because it's plateaued off from Q2 to Q3. Same with revenue. And the problem with that is this company is still spending a lot and in growth mode, right? And it's still, if you pull back and look at what those numbers are compared to the other portals, you see that it's 1/20th the size in terms of revenue of Zillow. So that's not a place you want to pause. It's like launching a rocket into space. You don't want to pause 300 meters off the ground. You want to keep going, right? But the point here is that we're talking about traffic, but traffic isn't everything. There's other measures of success here. You want to look at revenue and leads and customers. It's about product market fit, and I think the ultimate way that's proven is with the amount of paying customers you can get. Just throw that up again. All right, another classic tool of propaganda is setting your own expectations and then exceeding them. For the past 6 quarters, Opendoor has exceeded its own guidance. We've exceeded the high end of our guidance. We've exceeded the high end of our guidance. We've exceeded our guidance. You see the problem here, right? It's notable when you exceed somebody else's guidance, like, oh, we beat Wall Street expectations. But when you're setting your own guidance and exceeding it, that's different. So either one of two things is happening there. One is you're sandbagging the market, setting low expectations on purpose, just so you can exceed them. Or second is you know the operations of your business so poorly, you have no idea how it's going to end up 1.5 months from now. Maybe change your guidance. 6 quarters. Make it a little bit higher next time. All right, the last theme I'm going to talk about today in the world of propaganda is choosing words that work. So the easiest way to think about this is from the world of politics. If you're familiar with the phrases, the bridge to nowhere, global warming versus the much more tame climate change, or death tax, like these are words and phrases specifically chosen to make you think certain ways. These are magical words. And we have the same in real estate. Clear cooperation, seller choice, private listing networks. These are not words and phrases just kind of pulled out of thin air. They're chosen on purpose. How could you possibly be against clear cooperation? I'm totally in favor of chaos everywhere, right? It automatically sets anybody against that policy back a step, right? To have a debate around a really important topic. So I wanted to know what consumers really want in real estate agents. You know, I did some secret shopping work last year that I talked about. So did the same kind of research, right? What do consumers really want in a real estate agent? And these were detailed, one-on-one, 45-minute interviews. I didn't conduct them. I worked with a firm that did that, with recent buyers or sellers to really understand what's going on. You can't do a survey of 1,000 people and get like this level of data. All right? So I'm going to give it to you. Next slide, right? What are the 3 qualities that came out on top? The 3 words, phrases that people valued and wanted in real estate agents? Patient, knowledgeable, transparent. What does that mean in terms of some more phrases? Patient, take your time. We'll find a solution. You're in good hands. Knowledgeable? I've experienced handling situations like this. I'll guide you through every step. Makes sense when you see it, right? But this got me thinking, can you replace patience with technology? And this comes to what I've talked about before in the last year, this last mile problem, right? You can spend millions, billions of dollars building websites, generating leads, CRM, AI, all this. But in real estate, like other industries, but especially in real estate, you have this last mile problem. You need a real estate agent to build a meaningful relationship, human to human, with somebody to make it work. Over the holidays, a real estate agent friend of mine sent me these pictures. This was him sending Christmas letters out to customers and prospective clients. Like typing them out, signing them, mailing them, putting a stamp. Those little flags on the envelopes, those are called stamps. You could have automated this. When I hold my in-person real estate innovation hub events in Boulder, I get these handwritten thank you notes from people. You know how that feels. It's super meaningful. Over the holidays, I got an automated season's greeting email with a legal notice at the bottom. letting me know that these season's greetings may contain confidential or proprietary information. And if I was not the intended recipient of these season's greetings, to notify them and destroy this email immediately. You can automate it. That took, 1/1,000,000th of the time as stamping and writing everything. But you see it. Back to the research. You know what the number 1 negative trait was that people do not want in real estate agents? Lack of responsiveness. Again, the secret shopping research I did where we sent people into open homes and we did online lead forms. Remember that? Half of the time we never heard back. Imagine talking to your boss. Be like, I accept this position. I'm only going to do my job half of the time. This is not rocket science. Just call people back. All right, so what does this all mean? Thinking about propaganda. The best definition I've ever seen of propaganda is this. It's the art of getting people to jump to conclusions without a thorough review of the facts. I've spent my 20 minutes today talking to you about this because I think it's important. And I believe if you understand the methods of someone trying to outwit you, you can anticipate their actions and respond effectively. My suggestions to you: be curious. Don't just read the headlines. Dig a little deeper. Or you know what? If you don't have time, you can follow me. I'll do that. I'll do that stuff. But just be curious. Get multiple data points from multiple sources. And look for that clarity through context. Dig deeper. Because I believe the best form of counter-propaganda is the truth. This has been Propaganda. Thank you very much.